can be saved? Who is God working with? Where is the true church? Some churches ask these questions of their audience as part of their outreach programs, as they are questions similar to even what the disciples asked of Christ directly. They seem especially appropriate given the doctrinal confusion in the world and the many different denominations. And the simple even yes or no answers to such questions would certainly be much preferred by many. Just give me the answer, and that is all we need, and I'll be good with that. Such is human nature, it seems, and therefore many with great assurance to their viewers offer the answers they are looking for. Christ, however, does not answer us on our own terms, even though our terms often seem fair enough. In reality, these questions and the expected answers are often born out of a skewed and narrow perspective of God and His will. Christ offers us a broader understanding. When we gain broader understanding, answers will start to come into proper perspective, which will give anyone who can accept it, and is willing to work for it, a fuller sense of purpose. Luke, in his Gospel account, records an event worthy of consideration. Chapter 12 begins with a description of the scene. In the meantime, when an innumerable multitude of people had gathered together so that they trampled one another, Christ then taught his disciples and also the crowd. He began to emphasize a broad spectrum of teaching on hypocrisy, the fear of God, God's care, to be ready with their heart in the right place, and to be ready on the day of their Master's visitation. Then came a question from Peter. Then Peter said to him, "Lord, do you speak this parable only to us, or to all people?" Peter's question also reflects a narrow view of God's will in the time of his training. Christ's answer was based on accountability, and likened it to the accountability of the servant to his master. Let's look at Christ's answer in a few parts. First, there is the faithful and wise steward who knew his master's will and acted on it. He is graciously rewarded. And there is the steward who knew his master's will and did not make provisions for it, and moreover abused his privilege. That servant will be cast out. And there is the servant who knew his master's will but did not act on it. That servant will be spared, but punished with many stripes. Lastly, there is the one who did not know, even the non-servant, and conducted himself falsely in life. This one would be spared, but beaten with a few stripes. Christ gives us a summary of this portion of his answer. For everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required, and to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask the more. Christ's answer to Peter is in terms of how he judges on behalf of the Father. The answer, therefore, regarding Peter's question would appear to be that Jesus Christ had all in view, but in varying degrees. This means we need to be careful not to put a filter on Christ, because here he also asks us to consider the measure we have of ourselves in the faith, or even how we interpret the faith. God does not look upon the signs over the doors of churches when judging individual Christians. However, church leaders who suggest they have a special or exclusive claim on God or to his truth should be considered suspect. A failure to do so can lead to very distorted ideas of God's will and of the self. Therefore, the question is not one of us or them, or who he is working with and who he is not, or where it is happening or not. Christ is aware that we can limit ourselves in spite of our proclaimed faith. Therefore, as we open our understanding to God's will and passion, questions such as who he is with and who he is not become less relevant. Instead, our attention will be directed to the joy in taking whatever measure of faith and understanding we have been given and begin to use it, move it, and work for more of it as we grow. This is not an us or them, or who is or who isn't faith. Rather, it is a judgment on the measure of faith one has, however limited or however great, that looks out for the interests of the great Master.